All right. Can I get a mic check? We're trying something a little different here. We're trying this on the computer. I don't usually do that, but
Do you want
I'm
to
going to
stand?
try. No, I'll be fine. I'm going to put my legs up and I'm going to get comfy here. Give me a second here. We're going to be doing this a little differently today than we usually do it. So let's see if that works good. And actually, I'll show you. I've got the Yeti microphone here. So we got that. And we're doing a little bit of a sound check here. So this is my rotund backside here onto the bed more comfortably. Okay, so we can go forward here, and this is very much a comfy stream. For those who aren't regulars on the stream, this is really just something designed for me to kind of hang out with the regulars a little bit and do some updates. Can you guys tell me? Can you hear me? Okay, it looks like I'm getting sound through, but I want to make sure that that's in fact accurate. And if I need to adjust the volume, I trust you will let me know.
Hey, I could put in another light bulb.
I don't know. Don't ask me during the stream.
Not right this second.
Maybe. Okay. All right. So, okay, you guys can hear me. Okay, good. Good. So, welcome to the show. I am Tom Kaczynski. It's kind of weird because I'm looking at the screen and the phone is in real time. There's an ever so slight delay between what I'm seeing in front of me on the computer here and what you're seeing. So, it's kind of messing with my head a little bit, but I'll get used to it. I just have to manage to treat myself to not look. All right, good to see. Glad to see you here. Let me say hello to everyone who's here with me. Richard Quimby, good to see you. Superficial Dumb Samsung, Jack Coda, good to see you. I know Lamprey's over there hiding somewhere in the background, and all the other reprobates who are coming over from
How's that
the
heat?
Telegram group. Ecky's probably, I don't know, it's 2 p.m. He's probably out getting a burrito somewhere over there in LA. All right, so all right, what's going on here? Let's see. Today's show, we're going to talk about updates on what's happening over there in Kazakhstan. Good to see you, Tim, Robert. Good, who's everyone who's here. We're going to try to put more content out too, as well. So this is something we're working for. It's 5:19 now. Let's aim to go to about 6. I don't want to go past then because my eyes are kind of tired. If we go a little bit shorter, that might happen. You guys throw up some questions too if you want. This will be a very free-form show. We'll let the thing wander after I do the update on Kazakhstan. So just a little reminder. Good to see you, Salacious Crumb. You'll have to tell me who you are later. So, because I actually have a theory as to who that is, but that's fine. Um, actually, I have well, no, maybe we'll have to see who that is. I have a hunch who it is. All right. Anyway, good evening. I'm doing such a poor job this morning. I'm doing a poor job.
You're
Well, the
right.
show is entitled Morning in Almaty, and Almaty is in Kazakhstan, which is why we're talking about morning, because, yes, you're right, it's not morning here. Richard is correct. He just got home from morning. He just got home from work, but now we're trying to figure this out. Okay, into the show. Let's have some fun with this. So, before we get into it, reminder the Venmo CVC PRV, t.me/Atlantic Homeland, and you guys know all the other usual things. So here's what we're looking at in Kazakhstan. The CSTO, which is the was it the Commonwealth? It's in Cyrillic, so it comes out a little funny. But basically, the Commonwealth facilities that came out after the Commonwealth Security Treaty Organization, which is basically the union of the ex-Soviet states that emerged after Russia fell, is invoking, I believe it's called Article 4 under their constitution. The president of Kazakhstan, Tukayev, I want to make sure I'm saying this name right because I switched out for which screen I was looking on, has asked for peacekeeping troops to be deployed from them. And it appears that the Russians and the Belarusians are sending in help. So that is something that we are looking at as this thing operates in real time. Now, as best I can tell, the biggest problem has been in the city of Almaty, which is the second biggest city, or I guess it's the biggest city, but the capital's Tashkent, if I got this right. I want to make sure I got the names right here and I'm not messing this up. But they stormed the airport, and if the information I'm reading over in Intel Slava is worth listening to or worth looking at, apparently the military lost control of tanks, grenade launchers in the airport. And there's even some Islamic militants running around with a demand that they have democracy, break the alliance with Russia that they have, and have free elections. So that doesn't really sound like a popular protest in terms of people who are trying to appropriate it. Now, keep in mind, there's a difference between what the people want and what these people who are getting on cameras want. And from what I am reading, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but apparently they don't think this is necessarily the CIA. Some people who are looking at this think this is MI6. And for those of you who don't recognize who that is, Britain has long been a player in the Great Game, and causing problems is kind of what they do. It's not bad enough to ruin life for their own people. Now they have to go do it over in Kazakhstan. So what's going on right now is, I'll just say here, the president of Kazakhstan, his name, I want to say it right, Kasim Jomart Tokayev, is asking for help from the CSTO Collective Security Council, and the chairman of that is named Nikolai Pashinyan, and the Russians are coming in apparently as we speak to try to help secure things. Now, apparently, this looks like a retake, I should say, on what happened in the Maidan in a lot of ways that we've seen before. And for those who don't remember, back in 2014, what happened in the Ukraine. So it appears that as the thing is ongoing here, and I'll see here, this is the demands. I'm using the Eurasia and Multipolarity site. Who's putting this from here? This is one of the ones that has a number of people on the ground there over on Telegram. The demands of the Kazakhs destroying their own country are immediate release of all political prisoners, full resignation of the president and government, and political reforms to include the creation of a provisional government of reputable and public citizens, withdrawal from all alliances with Russia. So they basically have two models they can go for. They can do the Ukraine model, where they let the country go and then it goes into the Western orbit, or they can do the Belarus model, because Lukashenko was under a lot of pressure there and he held out. The Russians came in, and I am sure at this point the Russians are going to make the conclusion that the West is getting involved in this mess, at least in going forward here. Let's see. President Tokayev has officially requested the CSTO to intervene in order to restore order. Other measures to neutralize these, it says terrorists, that's how they put it, include the use of army starting from midnight and military enforced curfew. The Kazakh government might also confiscate the assets that belong to companies of the countries that are sponsoring the uprising, in particular the UK and the US. So if we see the confiscation of US business and UK business assets by the government, that will be a big indicator that they're going forward and saying that they believe this is the causative factor for it. You're blinding the audience. You're giving me a
What?
heck of a shadow.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. You're
Just get
playing with it.
ready. You're good.
I know you've got your thing. I
Yeah.
understand. All right, so let's see here. But yeah, the government apparently in Tokyo, this is coming out of RA Novotny, which is the Russian news service, and this is in Russian, but people are giving me translation. They're considering what's happening in Kazakhstan to be externally caused. And of course, they're having this big meeting in Geneva on the 10th. So the Russians looking at this may make the conclusion that the West is trying to screw with them, and this may screw up the whole summit, which may lead to war in the Ukraine. And if Russia goes in there, does the West want to go ahead and have a larger fight? I think that's very likely something that could go ahead and happen. We see the president here officially requested intervention. And I'm going to put a link in there here so you can see, and so you can kind of take a peek at what I'm looking at here. This is a good site to keep an eye on. If you're on Telegram there, you'll be able to look and see what I'm doing. I'm just reporting what I'm reading in real time. I mean, I peeked at it before I came out here, so I kind of knew, but I wanted to make sure I said this exactly right. 8 police officers have been killed as of last night. That was the reporting. 317 were injured in the capital, the city of Nur Sultan, and there's a curfew in effect. So we'll see what's happening there. But it seems like right now that the real problem is in Almaty. That the Russians who live there in the north and the west are working to build their own self defense things. And I'm going to read this analysis. I can't verify if it's true or not, but it fits logically. So we'll read this here. And this was posted in the Eurasian Multipolarity site, just to give you guys an update what I'm seeing. 1. It is quite obvious that a prepared and well coordinated attempt is being made to overthrow the existing political regime in Kazakhstan. As one of the leaders of the new democratic Kazakhstan, they are trying to sell the former minister under Nazarbayev, rather, who is now sitting in Kiev and calls for the overthrow of Tokayev. Well, if they literally have an exile from Kiev who's doing this, this is going to get so much worse for Ukraine. I mean, they ought to have left well enough alone, but people never learn. The authorities have traditionally been late in responding, clearly demonstrating that they have not learned any lessons from what happened recently in Belarus. According to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the security forces lost 8 killed and 317 wounded during the day. There are also reports of several hundred injured protesters. There's no confirmed information about the killed, but they may well be. In general, the blood is already pouring, and so far the process is on the increase. There are not enough known unknown snipers to carry out the sublimation process. And I'll just tell you, I've been looking at the videos of this. Violence is happening all over the place, especially in Almaty. Joseph writes, the elites want their war. This stinks of being U.S. paid, especially with that December 16th release. Yeah, this smells really bad, and this is basically the U.S. saying, you want to fight asymmetrical warfare, we can too. And after what Putin put out there, I mean, you're poking the bear in the eye, and I'll just tell you, don't be in New York City. Just take my word for it. There's a lot of things in the prophetic word about that. Give me 1 second. The power cord came out of the computer. Let me adjust this here. 1 second. No, I'm just looking at my battery going down, and that ain't gonna work. Okay. No, I got it. I got it.
Just put your leg on the cord. You're gonna pull it right back out.
I'm not good. Well, I've got a turtle going for it here. You know, just an aside, I got another stupid thing from the Census Bureau. The reminder: the Census Bureau needs your help to understand the impact of COVID on your community. I'll tell them where they can shove their impact. Okay. Number 3, the EU called for respect for the right to peaceful protests. The U.S. officially denies that it is involved in what's happening in Kazakhstan. Nevertheless, on December 19th, the U.S. Embassy issued a warning to U.S. citizens in which it spoke in plain text about imminent protests. People are saying hi to you. Against Nazarbayev, she said, "What's up, Tokayev?" Even before the rise in gas prices. The first cosmonaut of Kazakhstan called for the introduction of CSTO troops in the Territorial Republic to restore order. Kazakhstan really does have such an option, but as the Kremlin noted today, there were no requests from Kazakhstan. That has changed since then. That has come through. Officially, anyway, only in the evening did Tokayev say that he considered it appropriate and timely to appeal to the CSTO for help, that de facto could open the way for a scenario for the introduction of troops from those member states to restore order Kazakhstan federal district, independent Kazakhstan. In theory, it may not even be Russian, but say Kyrgyz or Armenian military. Okay. By the evening of January 5th, the authorities lost control over several cities, including Almaty and 3 airports. Astana is the big city there. Okay, I'm sorry. I keep saying Tashkent. That's Uzbekistan. My bad. And Pavlodar are controlled by security officials. In the captured city, the protesters already have hundreds, if not thousands, of small arms seized in the weapons of the KNB and the military Ministry of Internal Affairs, as well as taken from the police, guards, and military. Among the dead security officials, there were those already killed by firearms today. It is also worth noting the anarchy, robbery, and looting reigns in the captured cities. So I guess we'll have KLM there. Kazakh Lives Matter. Hundreds of vehicles were destroyed, of which special equipment is the smallest part. Duty free was plundered at the Almaty airport. I guess there's lots of booze tonight. Look for Molotov cocktails incoming. The footage from Almaty is vividly reminiscent of the aftermath of recent BLM protests in the U.S. Well, there you go. In addition to centralized pogroms and robberies, molecular crime also flourishes. The authorities of Kazakhstan have finally matured to the idea that the state of emergency should be introduced throughout the country. The braking distance was about a day. The only thing they could more or less accomplish was to cut off the internet, which, by the way, happened about an hour after my early morning broadcast. In most of the country and partially drown out the connection. Along the way, electronic banking has begun to crumble. There's probably Bitcoin there as well now. By evening, she began to partially rise. GOS TV is in prostration like Belarus. I think I made the words off here. No matter how, another team of information warfare specialists had to be sent there from Moscow. So I guess they must have Russian media there covering it. There are no rallies for Tokayev and Nazarbayev, but they are not close. This is already a familiar picture. Tokayev is clearly not Lukashenko. That's comparing him to the guy in Belarus who will begin to collect rallies for himself and go to the hostile crowd to persuade her. Tokayev's promises to harshly suppress the protests are still just words. The longer the delay is, the more bloody the consequences will be, unless the decision on self-draining in the spirit of Yanukovych as Sargsyan has already not been made. And what they're saying there is he's going to have to fight this, or the country's going to go into civil war and chaos. So that is something we should expect to see. And that's what's going on in Kazakhstan tonight. We'll see. But it looks like, from everything I can make out and from how they're treating this looks, I hate to say it, exactly like a Western backed sort of coup that would go into position there, to try to cause chaos on the Russian southern flank, to maybe buy time in Ukraine. And if the Russians conclude that their response to diplomatic negotiations was for the West to do this, then you should expect that the possibility of war, between the West and mind you, even with a Russian first strike, actually may have risen significantly tonight. Um, we have insane sociopaths running the American government in most Western countries. You need look no further than Emmanuel Macron's promise to punish as non-citizens those people who choose to refuse the jab, and how dismissively we're all viewed. I mean, where is the political party that represents sanity in this? Where is the one who says, "Hey, maybe people don't need to take this thing"? There's not a single one in the West, and it just shows how bought and paid for all of our governments are, how sold they're. It's utterly disgusting, and I don't know what else to say about it other than the fact that these people are trying to get us all killed. I don't know how we can draw any other conclusion, and whether they do it through war, whether they do it through these jabs, whether they do it through this insane foreign policy, something has to be done. I mean, maybe we just all need to stay home until the whole thing collapses and then just try to pick up the pieces. I don't know what the answer is to this, but I know what's happening does not make any sense, from anyone who's being, rational in any way about the politics of what we might want to do here. So that is your update from Kazakhstan. So it's an evening show. I don't have anything special to share to report to you. If you're going to throw up some questions, that would be fun, so we can have a chat with one another. We'll see. This says top chat. Let's make it live chat so I can see everything that's out there as you guys are posting as we go forward here. And I'll just see if there's anything else that I want to mention. One thing a lot of people are keeping an eye on tonight is that we're looking for, what is it? Mysterious giant structures near Earth's core have been discovered, like an egg is referenced.
That's creepy.
Well, that's great. We're gonna
That's
birth
creepy.
something from that. That's weird. What was I gonna say? There is a Russian satellite that apparently is orbiting the Earth and is going to crash sometime soon. People thought it was going to crash around 3 p.m., but apparently it's held up. So we'll see what's happening with that. There might be a big boom somewhere in your backyard. Apparently, they thought it was going to go down in Quebec last I saw. It was in the Caribbean earlier today. Now we don't know where it is. Some people think it might be some sort of a weapon, because there's always been this theory that if you could get something kind of close and underneath where the missile shield is, you could have an EMP go off at any point in time. I don't think this is that, just to be very clear, but it's interesting to mention. And that being the case, it is something that I wanted to put out in front of you, just as a thought here. And we'll see if there's anything else real fast that I wanted to cover here. Let's see. People getting blocked from different things for censorship. What a surprise. The FDA authorized a booster shot for children 12 and up. I mean, there's a special place at a very cold or very hot place, depending on what your theology is for those people. We know where that's all going. And right now, it looks like this is the calm before the storm. I think that's probably the best advice I can give to any of you. That I don't know what we should expect to see, but I think that we will see peacekeeping troops come in from Russia. I do think that there may be armed resistance in certain cities. I think it's very likely we may see some of the ubiquitous Islamic militants, much like, you got to remember, Russia, and let's connect the dots here. If Lamprey was here, he would approve of this. That in the same way that US backed jihadist militants like ISIS, and yeah, I know, oh, we fought ISIS. No, we funded ISIS. The Russians fought ISIS and helped Bashar Assad, who was protecting the Christians, in the same way that Saddam Hussein and Tariq Aziz, like, they were not nice people. And they were terrible to the Shia, and they were terrible to certain people, but they also held the militants down. We keep funding the militants. I mean, wake up. Go back to bin Laden. This is not a new story. The Bin Laden School of Middle Eastern Affairs is at Oxford University. You can go look it up. Go check. This is nothing new. And so we, as usual, are backing Islamic militants to destabilize countries. We give them money. We let them go around dressed up in jihadi suits, doing whatever they want to do, because that's what we do. In the same way we go ahead and bring them into this country. They represent districts in Minnesota, if you want to know the truth of it, as well as other places, which is completely crazy. But we do these things, and we bring them into these countries, and we use them to destabilize regimes in the effort to destabilize the Russian southern flank, to cause disruptions in the world fuel markets, is something that would be very much aligned with what America does. And I don't know, look, I mean, when the National Security Act was passed in 1947, we lost control of our government. Now, one could argue we lost control of it much earlier than that, and that's fine. You pick any point from 1776 onward, I'll agree with you. Then I could tell you why at that point it was lost. But what I want to say to you is the format we are seeing here play out is one that looks very sketchy. And it starts to paint what happened in Afghanistan with that disgusting, kind of poorly botched rollout differently. Maybe the reason why those things were being left there is if you look at the map, Afghanistan ain't very far from, what we have here in Kazakhstan. And perhaps some of these things were moving, through black market channels where maybe some of these things will exist. And now we're going to have a war on Russia's southern flank. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see if any of these problems that exist go ahead and spread to any of the other countries around there, whether they go. And I don't know Central Asian politics well enough to say what the stability is. I'll have to do my research on it and let you guys know. But just looking at the map real fast here, what's going on in there, what I wonder is, from Afghanistan, you just have to get across one country into Uzbekistan and you're in Kazakhstan. So, and a lot of these militants, and there's a lot of flow of people and workers between these countries. There's a lot of Uzbeks that are already in Kazakhstan. So it's very possible that maybe there's a longer term play here where Afghanistan was surrendered and the agency was moving things across and through the those other Central Asian states to go ahead and fund a sort of military incursion of paramilitaries on the Russian border, and that's possible. I don't know. I mean, it would require a little bit more thoughtfulness and a little bit more evil than we think they're capable of. But I have no doubt that they're capable of the evil. Their thoughtfulness. I don't know. This isn't the old days. There's no George Kennan over there. Let's see. The Boer mystic said the third haystack would be lit by the Turk. Well, I'm all about blaming the Turk for everything. That's my Slavic heritage. But what I will say to you is one of the things that is interesting about these countries is there are three competing interests on them, generally speaking. Number one is Russia as their former controller. Number two is China as their primary market. And number three is Turkey as their ethnic brethren. And that there are councils and administrations that connect all three of them. There's been talk about making a single Turkish republic that goes through all of that. And they want to rebuild the Ottoman Empire out of Istanbul there. So maybe that's a play in there. And I think the Turks may be making a play against the Russians in their near periphery. Turkey and Russia have a very weird, very complicated, very long relationship, and I don't want to
Speaking
overlook
of
this.
Slavs,
Arthur Pavlovsky was arrested again up in Alberta. It was in Alberta, or was he in
I'm
Ontario?
driving through the snow. It's disgusting.
Well, yeah, that's the Canadian preacher who's been out there speaking. They literally had a court thing where they literally said if he went out and he talked, he was supposed to give a disclaimer for what he said. It got thrown out by the court up there, but I don't know. We live in a world gone mad. You already know all that. That's nothing new for you guys who are watching this program. But the geopolitics of this are actually fascinating. And it looks like the West wants to have a war over Ukraine, which is crazy, but that's what it is. And when I say a war, it might be a Cold War. They might not want a hot war, but they're basically saying the people in Washington and whoever the global supporters here are one of the things that was happening is they understood that they want to keep a single world hegemony. And when they had a world hegemony, they went ahead and they don't want to give it up. And this is the Thucydides trap in a single thing, except everyone's going to come against the West. So we'll see what happens here. And it's a big problem. So 10 past 11 says, I don't know how anyone could take anything I say seriously. Didn't you aggressively advocate for lockdown, sir? Well, if you don't take me seriously, why are you here? Let me make your life easier. We will remove you, and that way this whole chat will go forward better. See, now you will know to take me seriously. But I will say this, yeah, I will, and let's put it out there. That's fine. I'm happy to talk about it. When COVID first broke, I was one of the first people who said you better stay home because at the time we were watching videos that appeared that we were having thousands of people die in Wuhan. We were seeing incinerators all over the place, and if you went out in public with that, the way it was going forward, you probably were an idiot because it was very, very dangerous. And the truth is, it would not be a surprising thing if biological warfare led to mass death events. We're kind of seeing it in an indirect way that's being managed in a slow way. But one of the things that I want to go ahead and say to you is, yeah, I did say that. And then as I watched, and this is the thing, like there's a lot of people who are not very bright. I hope 10 past 11 isn't one of them, but maybe he is, or she is, or they are. It doesn't matter. You have to change what you think based upon new evidence that comes out there. When I saw a lot of people getting sick. And I saw, and a lot of people did get sick. I know people who died in New York. Now, I don't think they died from what people thought they died from, but I don't want to get my channel banned by going to that speculation. But because I thought that, and because I took the threat seriously, I went in front of it. I had the biggest podcast in America on coronavirus. I had 30,000 listeners. I'm not even kidding, every morning. And I was very, very good at it. And I went ahead and I blew up that audience because I'm not a grifter. I did so because the evidence didn't fit. And I'll tell you when I knew it was fake. The minute they let those BLM protests go around and they said, well, social justice is more important than public health, I knew the whole thing was BS. But the extent to which they fabricated this, the extent to which the scientific community was complicit in this and putting out information that was just false has been utterly astounding to me. But I didn't know that. All I could do was look at the evidence that was out there. And as the evidence changed, my views changed. People who went out there and said, well, I don't get sick. I'm not ever getting this shot. And I'm not ever going to take medicine. And if anything's going to kill me, that's not smart either. You have to go ahead and take care of yourself. You have to use your brain and you have to look and do constant threat assessment. And threats change. It's very possible before this is all done, we may face a pandemic of some sort that will get people very sick because they're mad that COVID isn't bad enough. And it's not bad enough because the truth is the biggest problem people are having is ADE, and you all know what that is. That is what I do. And I have no problem with admitting that if the facts bear it out, I will change my opinion on things. I do that, and I think that's what makes this show worthwhile. I'm going to watch that, I'm going to analyze, and I'm going to put out the best thoughts I can on the given topic at any given point in time. So if you have the sort of situation where you want to say, hey, I got you. Yeah, you got me. I was out there keeping myself and my immunocompromised wife safe. And we were out there while other people, if this was a real pandemic, I'll just tell you the truth, if this was a real pandemic, it was that bad, we were ready in January 2020. We were looking at this in December of 2019, and we were ready. We had masks weeks before anyone else did because you know what? We saw something that we thought could have been civilization ending. And if it was actually as bad as they looked, I made the prediction back then, and I'll stand by it, that we would have had a death toll in tens of millions in America. I genuinely believe that. But fortunately, thankfully, it wasn't. It was part of a larger plot, and now we've come to understand that. And you've looked at it. We've looked at Fauci, and I tell you what, we've looked at, and I'm even starting to think. I'm starting to think AIDS when it came out in the '80s. I'm starting to think yes, it was a governmental research, and I'm starting to think that it wasn't about keeping the immune system down. I think it was really about finding ways to bond things to people's biology and finding ways to break the blood-brain barrier. I think Lyme disease was in that same sort of queue, actually. You know, Dana and I always talk about that because that's something she experiences, and a lot of the seizure type based neurological effects that you see that people are having are absolutely the sort of things that are worrisome about some of these evolutions that are happening on people who have gone ahead and are taking some of these treatments. All right, so let's talk about that. Lamprey brings up a good thing, and thank you to Joseph, to Eki, and everyone else who've been around here for a very long time. I agree with you, Joseph. Lyme absolutely was a bioweapon. So we're here on the anniversary of 1/6/21, which is, of course, is the biggest joke in American history, and Trump had to cancel his big event, his speaking event, but no other than what was it? Lindsey Graham apparently talked about it. Now, look, I don't have any faith in the man. I think he's a shyster and a huckster, and I think if you follow him, that's to your own detriment. But I think that it would be interesting, actually, because I would love to do a counterfactual history. If I could do it on here, I would get so banned, but I would love to come on here and go ahead and tell the story of what happens if Trump had actually stood with the people on that day, if he was actually legitimate as a nationalist, because this country might look a hell of a lot different than it does now. And you know what? That's just the truth of it because most people, or I would say enough people, were ready to do something different. And now that door has closed. And I think it's closed probably permanently, in terms of us being able to do anything on an organized level. They will never allow anyone to get to power again. You can see all the predictive programming, all the manufactured consent saying that if a right wing government gets in there, it's because they stole an election. Of course, because no, Lord knows the right wing's the one who always steals elections, right? We're the ones who go ahead and say, yo, you don't have to have voter ID and we'll let people vote. Are you a fetus? You're boarded? You can still vote. It's fine. Go ahead. We'll let you vote. Go ahead. I mean, what's the old joke? The only way you can get a lifetime Republican to vote Democrat is to wait till they die. You know what I mean? And that's the truth of it. And that's the way it's always been. And look, the Republicans are no better. They're bought and paid for anyway. But they are. Eki has the exactly right word. They are front loading that narrative now, so that way when the election gets stolen, you're not allowed to say anything. And we already see the ideological purges that happen based on this health-related factor, and now we're just going to have to go forward with this. And look, smart Republicans are making the decision to fight at the state level, and we'll see what happens. But the only thing that gives me a little bit of comfort, and probably doesn't give anyone comfort but me, is the knowledge that evil sows the seeds of its own destruction. So what I think will happen is the idiots in Washington are going to screw up foreign policy so badly they get themselves into a war where they lose, and America might experience, by God, enforced regime change upon us. And whether that comes from anarchy or chaos or whatever, I am actually starting to think that's a more and more likely outcome each day, because it wouldn't take a lot. The people in this country are I don't know, like, part of the country's angry and pissed off and wants things to change. Part of the country's scared and afraid and hiding. Part of it's apathetic, but no one is invested in this. And how can you be? It just doesn't make sense. And whether we split it up or go different ways, something new needs to happen. And no one, even if you like DeSantis or things out there, we don't need an evolution. We need a revolution. We need a total change in thinking. I mean, like, for myself, like, I'm looking like at the next elections to come out. And look, I don't even vote at this point, but I'm not going to vote for anyone who isn't explicitly AV, who isn't, going against this injection thing. And there isn't anyone out there for me. So I'm going to sit there. And what's that mean? This country's going to become more communist. And as they get more crazy, other countries like Russia, who have a shred of dignity, maybe the Orthodox out there, and they'll go ahead and stay, what they'll do is they'll go ahead and say, this is evil. This is wickedness. We need to do something about it. And that's what it is. And I think that's what that's what I think's going to happen. I mean, look, we spend a lot of time. You guys know I'm a preacher on Sundays. That's what I do. Which is a funny thing, right? Who would have ever thought that would happen? Strange life. But in terms of that, what I expect is expect to see the fulfillment of the Ezekiel 38-39 Gog Magog war, and I expect Russia to go ahead and actually put America down. And the reason why is because the Cold War was a war where the elites were designed to win. Designed to win. You can read this in stuff like Albert Pike and the Rockefellers' writings, and both sides were designed to lose. Communism lost in Russia, capitalism is lost in America, and both are going to be put down to the global system, which will probably be based out of Europe and will use Chinese slave labor as its thing. It's the way these things work, and this has been talked about for 30, 40 years. Go read things like the French guy, Jacques Attali. We'll have a Merovingian running around. That's why they put that crap in the Matrix. Well, listen, 10 past 11. If you're willing to say that, and I appreciate the little donation, then I am willing to accept that as well. Things can get a little heated on the internet, and I've had to deal with a lot of people, saying things to me and about me over the years. And that is, I stand up for myself. And look, be very clear. I'm not saying I always get it right. My job is to be the paranoid thermometer that gets out in front of it. And so, what I always promise to you is not that I'm always going to get it right. I will get it wrong, but I will correct myself in light of evidence. And if there's something coming, I will probably see it as fast as anyone else. I mean, in our chat, I'll just tell you, we have such a big group of INTJ talent, with an occasional INFJ, just for a little bit of flavor, that's out there. What we do is we see things. We are professional paranoiacs that are going. I'm going crazy, so you don't have to. It's honestly the truth of it. We do that, and we saw these things. And I was talking about Kazakhstan last night. Dana, you'll attest to this. Wasn't I talking about Kazakhstan like in the middle of yesterday evening? And I was saying that this is going to be a thing.
Yeah, and then we just made a bunch of Borat jokes.
We did make a bunch of Borat jokes. It's yeah. You want to talk about something you could never put? Go watch some of his musical selections about what was the cause of the problems in Kazakhstan. I'll just leave it at that. It's it's something you probably couldn't make today in terms of a joke. But what we should keep an eye on. All right. So one of the things that is at the heart of this is also the energy politics of it. I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on. Food shortages being an ongoing problem, but we'll see if Russia send troops in there, or it'll be interesting if they ask Russia not to send troops, and you see some of the other Turkmen republics around there. So I think that's what could happen in Kazakhstan. You were heck, he was humming that song in the shower today. Well,
Really?
wait, check this out. Well done, my friend. If you get it, you get it, and if you don't get it, don't try to figure it out. It's fine. Um, so that's what's happening around the world today. And what else? So we're going to work on, if the world makes it to if the world makes it to the middle of the month, I'm going to start working on the next project, which is going to be about restarting civilization and a handbook. So if you find yourself in a bunker and you're the last one to survive, and if the rapture doesn't happen, you get missed, you're still here. spend a lot of time praying, and that's going to be one of the first chapters in the book. But beyond that, what you're going to need to do is start planning for what's coming ahead. It's bad everywhere, and it's unstable. Something new is coming. Just don't let them impose it on you. It's just so disgusting how they're going about this. And let's see what happens in Europe. I mean, the Americans don't have a lot of fight because honestly, we still have a lot of space to retreat to. I mean, one day we'll probably get picked into a fight, and the government has been looking desperately for an excuse to paint its own citizens as terrorists, and we'll see if something changes. I mean, it would be nice if there was a different choice that was out there, but you just can't do it. They'll decapitate you. I mean, it's just I don't know how you go ahead and you do it. I wish I knew how. I really wish I would. If I knew how, I would do it. I mean, hell, I'd love to go ahead and lead Maine into secession. Bring our friends in New Brunswick along. The Acadian world comes back to life. Anyway, so that's all I got around here. Do you have anything you want to say tonight, Dana? Anything you want to share with the peeps? Why don't you tell them what your funny shirt says?
It says, "I raise chickens. I'm literally a chicken tender."
You're ever so slightly in the picture
Am
here.
I really?
Yeah, just
What's
your
up,
face.
peeps?
Wait, we'll turn it ever so
No,
slightly.
stop.
There you go. There's your face. Do you see yourself?
Yeah. Hi, y'all.
Dana says hi. So she's there. All right. So, and everyone, say a prayer for Dana tonight. We've been working on some stuff for our ministry. Tonight's kind of a big night with that. She's got her stuff she's doing later. She's working on. So we will continue to work on that. I had a really interesting request from the chat group asking me to do a sermon talking about the Tower of Babel. I don't know if a sermon necessarily works at that, but it would be really interesting to do maybe a study session because there's some apocryphal literature that's really interesting. The Book of Jasher on it. What else is really good on that? Book of Enoch goes into it just a little bit. There's some other ones we could do it, and maybe we could talk about the figure of Nimrod because that's the root of the mother and child cult. One of the reasons that you see in certain sects, we'll put denominations, the emphasis as Jesus as baby and Mary as mother is that's a recreation of the goddess worship that was at the heart of the first paganism, and it was something that was so popular it was carried through and continued forward through certain things. I mean, the infamous example was what was it? I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how Pope Gregory went forward and he said that you should pray to Mary instead of Jesus because she has more mercy than Jesus does. And that you would go ahead and because she would have more mercy, that would be a better path to heaven because Jesus couldn't say no to her. Of course, in the gospel, Jesus does say no to her. And it's really an interesting question why this guy was canonized given that. But, that's the catechism for you. So that's one of those things that if you start doing your research about, you might conclude a little differently. And that's why we kind of do our sort of wilderness sons of dust preaching that's a little bit more biblically warranted. That is a funny picture.
Emmett fell asleep in a bowl of
She's
mustard.
showing me a picture of a chicken in a bowl of mustard, which is kind of funny.
Rooster
Do you want to share the picture or no?
I mean, sure.
I don't know if we can get it out here.
Yeah,
just put it in front of the camera. You got to tilt it, cut it downward, and now it's the you can kind of see it there at an angle. Yeah. That's a bowl of mustard and a lavender Orpington in it.
I walked out of the room and I came back in. I was like, "What the world?" So yeah, there's a turtle in there too, a couple of chicks.
So anyway, it is blessedly quiet here. In some of the evening shows, you won't have to hear chickens running around. I know some people get real triggered by the roosters going off. I get triggered by the roosters going off too. Today they went and ate their own weight in foam. So that wasn't very good. But I couldn't let them outside. It was like -10 the other day. It was terrible. Under -20, chickens start to die. I don't know if I can handle that. But when you live in the far north, you actually start to tell how cold it is based upon how much your lungs hurt when you breathe. And if things go kind of good the next week or so, and things go like I kind of hope, we might have a new mailing address to put out there. Or want to put out a new one for things coming in because I know some people have been doing that where we are. The old one still works, but it's inconvenient. Let's put it that way. So we'll try to have something that's a little bit easier to get to. Beyond that, what else am I looking at? Tomorrow is the 6th. We'll see how many things there are out there on the news media saying America was almost destroyed. The democracy was being questioned. We didn't support our public officials. Meanwhile, we were literally going around with Dumbledore's army with all the bureaucrats breaking every rule when the Republicans were in power. But let's forget the last 4 years, and throw that into the old sorting hat. You know what? I tell you what, if my choice for those idiots, Dumbledore's army, I'm voting for Riddle. Forget it. I'll go ahead. I'll be that guy. He has a name like mine. I'm with him. That's fine. Pure bloods unite. We're here. We're going to make it. All right. So hopefully it doesn't come to that. I do hope people actually are safe. I hope people are well. I don't wish anything bad on anyone. I really don't. That's part of the Christian walk. But if you have any last minute questions, we'll get them in right now. I will answer any question that's reasonable in the next few, that happens between now and 6 p.m. It's 5:56. I'm going to say a little prayer for tonight, and then we'll call it a show. And we'll have some more schizo streams here in the next few days. I've had some good content. I kind of wish you could go forward. Haggard has my vote, man. I have that when I have the hat, I look like Haggard. I love that look actually. This
It's
beard
cute
is
on you.
awesome. It's warm too. I need it because it's about 30 degrees colder downstairs. It's you wouldn't believe it. We actually had to have a space heater or not space heater, a little like thermal element heater in the bathtub because the hot
You
water
still have
went
a
out again.
heater.
Yeah, well, no, we lost it. We gained it. We lost it. We gained it. We lost it. Every time I use the dishwasher, I break it. So I don't know what's wrong with it. I think it's the fuse. Actually, does anyone know about knob fuses? Can you use a Type TL to replace a Type W? If you know that, I bet you Raven would know that. He knows stuff like that, or maybe Aaron. If you know that, let me know. I thought you could, but maybe you can't. I'm not sure. All right, Heavenly Father, I just want to say tonight we just ask that you keep those who honor you in peace and safety as this world goes crazy, and that you go ahead and protect each of us. I pray the blood of the lamb over everyone, and I pray that we have the wisdom to survive these days and to help one another come to you, Lord, in these difficult times, and that this whole community come together and be very a blessing to one another. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. I don't have a deep prayer tonight. I'm tired. I've been up since early this morning knowing things. That's egghead stuff. Well, you guys got to be useful for something. I mean, what do you do? Just sit on the internet and podcast all day? That's my job. What are you guys doing? Um, no, it's fine. I've had to learn how to do things. It's an interesting thing having to develop real skill sets. Like when we took apart. Well, you guys don't know this. The inside chat would know this. I literally took apart a space heater. It said on all right. So it said on the outside of the space heater. It literally said that what it does is it said there are no user operable parts in this to fix or no user serviceable. That's it. So I didn't accept that. Now the thing was 30 years old and I've had enough defeats. I'm like I'm gonna win this thing. So I tore the thing apart, and you know how it is when you take something apart. There's always more screws left over. It's just the way it is. You can never figure out because there's like 8,000 screws. And I can swear there's so many stupid electronic and mechanical devices where all it is like layer after layer of manifold. It's like a plastic square onion where all it is just layers designed to make you cry so you can't get to the center. All you need is one little box around it, but no, they make it impossible so you want to throw it away and buy a new one. And by the end of it, I just rebuilt it as a metal box. I didn't even care about the plastic thing. It's ugly anyway. Faux wood went out with the 1985 Ford Granada. I didn't want to see it anymore. It was done. So I took the thing apart and then we tightened up all the things and we got in there and cleaned it. Last time it was vacuumed. Vacuum tubes were the technology. So it was cleaned out and we made sure all the connections were tight because a couple of the elements were sitting kind of funny, and it ended up working by the end of it. And yeah, I spent 3 hours to save $50, and that's probably not very efficient, but it shows you the economy of what I actually live here. You love faux wood? Well, fine. You can go ahead and panel yourself away. I don't care. Faux wood can work in certain situations. It's like I like things. I like Formica. I like those old. I miss those old 1950s type diners that were all over the place when I was a kid in the 80s for the nostalgia of their parents. Now we don't have anything like that. But the point of this was, and besides, you wouldn't have liked it. It was ugly because it was black plastic. It wasn't the really good looking faux wood like the find you find in like an overpriced Bentley. It wasn't like that. What ended up happening was I put the thing back together, although my knee's been hurting all day because I did that. And now it's working. And that's what we do. I mean, if you saw our house, and I think Dan would agree with this, it's a shanty. I'm not gonna lie, but we have worked harder and achieved less than we ever have in this house, but yet we've done it on our own and we don't have to answer to anyone. We're not, other than the fact we pay what we pay, and pretty soon it'll be our own little slice of happiness so we can sit there and watch as the things come in from the sky and be like, "Oh, is that an aurora? No, I think that's a Minuteman. Oh, okay, that's what they call the nuclear missiles. Anyway, or wherever the Russians are. The Russians call theirs Poseidon, actually. They have this one where their missile was kind of interesting. What it does is it goes along the floor of the Atlantic Ocean and then it blows up and shoots a tidal wave where it just takes out the whole coast. So that way they don't have to have the radiation problem. They just get rid of all the people. But I mean, I wonder if the insurance would cover that. It's not technically an act of God. Would flood insurance cover that? don't know. I guess no one would be there to do it. They could pay you in dollars that aren't worth anything. It'll be monopoly money anyway. It's weird to be in a world where all the rules are falling apart. Oh, by the way, pro tip. I should give you guys because you guys want pro tips. Buy yourself some potassium iodide. Don't mess around. It's really cheap on Amazon. But if you like having your brain work, it's something that's useful to have around, and it will help. And you should have a basic knowledge of what you need to do if there is radiation poisoning, which is you basically need to kind of just hold in place for 2 weeks, I think. And you want to make sure you're not directly exposed. So if any air gets to you, you want to make it kind of go through like a zigzag passage. So leave out the Spice Girl song. A zig a zigzag, zig zig a zig. Okay, I can't sing. So you want it to have like a right angle in it. So like if there's any contamination, it'll come in and hit here, and the air will come through. Because after that, it's pretty much okay. Give it about I think like 6 weeks for water. I mean, this isn't medical advice, but if we get nuked, there's not going to be anyone to sue me, so that's fine. I'm willing to put it out there and take that chance with you guys. Yeah, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, I think northern Maine's a pretty good place to hide out. And we'll see what happens in the days ahead. But I will tell you this as we go forward with this. The way we're treating the Russians is incredibly disdainful. And if they're serious, if there's real competition between these countries, war is becoming more likely by the day. And if this is being conducted by a global elite behind us all, and depopulations are planned, they can't just use the plague. They're going to need some famine. They're going to need some war. Expect those things to come. Hey, the Lord said it's going to come. Have some faith in the Lord because nobody alive today seems to know anything. And I include myself in that. So God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for spending some time with me, myself, and Dana this evening. I noticed we have pretty good attendance tonight. I'll try
If
to
you
do
want
some
to
more
keep
evening
going,
shows.
I'm fine.
Well, I don't know what I want to say. Do you want to
Do I have
insert
anything
yourself
else to
into the?
say? I mean, I'm
Or
just.
do you want to prompt a question because I need a cue, and
Um,
the audience is just sitting here like staring at me, and that's not helpful. Usually, I usually
so
have
I
some
have a
inspiration.
question.
Yeah.
Let me think
I
about
mean,
it.
you don't have to. It doesn't matter if you do. It's okay if you don't. We'll get
Was
some rest.
there? There's got to be something that I've sent you or
Oh no, I don't want. I don't
that
want to go
we
into
haven't
something I have to actually have
discussed.
real knowledge about. I just want to talk things. You know what I do want to talk about? The other day, I was in a town up here. I'll just tell you where it was. Prescott House, the biggest town in northern Maine. So I was over there, and one of the things that's interesting is when you're in small town world, like there's always people at McDonald's, right? Like old people always hang out at McDonald's all day. It's like a thing, especially up here in Maine. And I was telling people you got to learn those underground cultures. I was telling all my INTJ friends you have to learn you guys are usually apart from the world, but you're not outside of it. And what do I mean by this? I mean that if you're outside of the world, what you're going to do is you're going to connect to people who are living outside the regular economy and have their own barter weird economies. It might be the guy who slaughters hogs for a side of bacon. That might be your gig and barter economy where you live. But that's okay. You ought to learn that and not just be someone who goes in and out of the system and doesn't care, but someone who exists in an alternative system. Because you're going to need a system to get through this unless you can do it all on your own. Um, Joseph
Did you
writes
talk
that it's
about the
every
rocket?
morning. Every morning, older people are at Dairy Queen. What's that
Did you talk about the rocket?
about? Which rocket?
The rocket.
Oh yeah, the Russian one. Yeah, I
I'm
did.
trying to give you ideas.
Well, the thing about McDonald's is it's cheap. Like you use their app, you can get a whole meal for 4.32.
Not
Now it'll
anymore.
probably kill you.
They killed all the deals.
No, they
Remember?
came back.
Oh, they came back.
They came back. Yeah,
So there's no French
they
fry
they did.
sorties.
I tell you what. Well, here's what happened the other day. Okay, so I went to Subway. No, I didn't go to Subway. I was going to go to Subway. I went on the Subway app and I was like, I'm going to get a sandwich. And the sandwich, I was just going to get a 6-inch cold kick cut combo, which is like the cheapest thing. It's basically bologna based garbage. It was turkey bologna, turkey ham, and I think there's one other meat on it. I don't remember what it is. It's not really what it says. It doesn't matter.
Hey, speaking of garbage.
No, I don't want to talk about what.
No, I could really go for a chicken tender basket with French fries right
Oh,
now.
I'm not going out. It's cold. You go
Please.
get. No, I'm no. I'm in the middle of a show.
When
I'm
you're
not.
done,
No, I'm not doing that.
come on, it's a special
No.
night.
Yeah, I know it's a special
Come
night.
on,
And
I
you
have
last thing you need is fried food. No.
no
Anyway,
no. The first thing I need is fried food because I need to calm my stomach
if
down.
you want to get it, you call them. I'll go if you
I
call.
don't have their number.
Well, you can look it up. R&M.
Uh,
Okay. So anyway, what I was going to say is that all right, where was I? So I was telling the Subway story. So it was 4.89 for a 6-inch sub. and it was $5.99 for a foot long. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Of course, Subway sandwiches are all bread anyway. So I'm like, okay. So I get usually if I go there, I get the foot long pro. And the foot long pro is if you get like double meat basically. And they had a coupon, buy one, get one half off. Which, by the way, they need to go back to buy one, get one, but whatever. So, and look, I eat crap food sometimes. It's just the way it is. I admit it. It's a bad habit. It is. But if
Code.
you saw the choices up here, you'd understand why I do what I do. And I do a lot of cooking. So, and I used to do those streams, but then it annoyed people, so I stopped doing it. What was I gonna say? So I look at this and I'm like, okay, buy one, get one. I'll just get one of the footlong pros because you need to get some actual meat on there. Otherwise, you might as well just go get a loaf of bread and like put a piece of salami on it at the supermarket. So I go to that. It's like, oh well, those aren't included in the buy one get one. I'm like, well, why not? And I'm like, ah, forget it. I'm sick of this. So then I end up going to the little supermarket in town. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get a wrapper salad. I'm like, I'm gonna try to eat something healthy. I'll get a salad. And I go there, and they want like $6.29 for a salad. I'm like, for a little salad, it's like a little dinky container like this, like a pint-sized container. I'm like, forget it. I'm not doing that. I'll just buy my own salad. So then I went ahead and I bought the salad, and by that time I was just so exhausted, I ended up going to McDonald's and getting a large fry, which was a complete waste of money. But I got it for $1, and I drove home, and I'm like, God, I'm so sick of this. Which is why I end up cooking at home because the choices are terrible. But at least McDonald's is cheap. You can't go to a fast food restaurant for under $20 these days, and that's the point. I'm sure it's more here. Maine is relatively cheap compared to other places. And yeah, Eki, the one thing I miss, the only thing I miss from living in the city is ethnic food. There was this little Indian place when I used to live in Pittsburgh. I loved it. And I used to love going to Canada, but you can't do it anymore. I mean, next time I go across Canada, it's going to look like Washington crossing the Delaware. So, I mean, I can't do that anymore, which is a shame because if you've never had poutine, that's beautiful. I mean, all it is fries with gravy, but they have a way of doing it. They put these cheese curds in. I think the Quebecois do it better than the Acadians, but they're very different people. The Acadians are from the Gascony region of France. They're basically the sort of pseudo Templars that came through, and the Quebecois are Normans, which are much more. I don't know. They're much more Englishy, I guess is the best way to put it. Things you learn living in northern Maine. Maybe we'll do a show on northern Maine some point. That might be fun. The ethnic food in Oklahoma wasn't all that great. Yeah, Oklahoma, you can get barbecue and steaks. That's about it. And you can have a barbecued steak if you want. The food up here, New England, northern New England doesn't have great food. I mean, if you go to any town in northern New England, you basically have three choices. You have a McDonald's, you have a Subway,
And a
and you
Dunkin'.
have a Dunkin'. Although we don't even have a Dunkin',
We don't have a
we don't have a
Dunkin'.
Dunkin', which is although there are some
It's
local
tragic.
choices. Yeah, it is. But you know what? That's fine. We don't need to lament the junk food we're not eating. So, um,
Speak for yourself. I want my donuts.
well, there you go. The wife wants donuts. The Dunkin' Donuts is in Caribou, actually.
Send donuts.
Send donut. That's what we
Raise
should
a
do. Forget
donut.
help. When I used to run the Coronavirus Central, I asked people to send me honey, and they did. They wanted me to keep talking. My voice
Oh,
was
they
so
did. You
hoarse.
can send your
Yeah,
cough
they
drops and
did. They
stuff.
did. Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, what should I ask them to send me? Rogaine. I'm kidding.
No, that's ship
I
sailed.
actually. Oh, has it?
That ship is
Is it
sailed.
Rogaine was Rogaine to the aughts what like Dexatrim was to the 80s? Like the failed treatment that everyone went ahead and tried? You know what I like? Grand Flash mentioned he likes Polar Soda from Hannaford. I like that Adirondack beverages. They got that up here. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's pure sugar
Oh, I
water,
do like
but those
those.
are tasty.
Those local ones.
So those are pretty
You're
good. But
toast.
oh, it's fine.
Are
It
you
doesn't matter.
cold? You can shut the window.
Yeah, I am cold. I'm cold and I'm tired. All right, I'm done with the broadcast for today. I'm gonna go rest. All right, you guys know what's going on. Keep safe. If the Russians attack us, God bless each of you. My advice is, if the Russians and Chinese come with us, go run and surrender to the Russians. That's what I would do. I think that's a good idea, especially since God knows the only way I'd fight for this country, to be honest with you, is if the Chinese were coming in, and even then it wouldn't. Huh?
I want to hear the tale of how the winged hussars saved Vienna.
Oh, I think I did that the one time.
Well,
September
tell me
11th, 16
Tell
isn't
me again. I
1683?
love it. It's a great
Oh
story.
yeah, greatest day in history. 30,000 cavalry troops charge down the mountain and run through the whole Turkish army. It's always a good time. All right, but yeah, go check out Sabaton's video about the winged hussars. It's actually quite entertaining. It'll make you feel good. Unless you're a Turk, in which case, why are you watching this channel? Um, all right, God bless, and well, maybe you're a Christian Turk who converted away. That would be good. All right, because we certainly want that to happen. All right, God bless. You guys have a good night. I will see you probably tomorrow morning. But if I don't, I will see you later tomorrow. I'll definitely see you on Friday. We'll keep a close eye on those things. Let me check before I go real fast if there's been any breaking news while I've been in here, because literally I was in here for an hour. There might be something here. Let's see. What are they writing about in the Arcadia project? That's mine. Let's see. I'm thinking future show with Tom on the NGO complex. That's okay. I'll have to lamprey. And by the way, I knew about some of the things that was happening with Fauci. I remember some of it. I'm old enough, just old enough to remember it. It doesn't look like anyone has anything new out that you guys need to know about. So I think you're okay for the moment. And we are okay. So God bless. Have a good night. See you guys soon.